We title ourselves the people of the water because of that connection with these waterways.
You want to talk about the biggest issue facing salmon right now? I don't think you can just pinpoint one. There is attacks on their survivability from every direction. I mean, you're talking about ocean conditions changing, talking about habitat conditions changing, water temperatures changing. It's just you can't say let's fix this and we'll fix the problem. That's not it. It needs to be. This is an issue that needs to be attacked from multiple angles, and that's what we do at Natural Resources. We have hydrologists, we have habitat biologists, foresters, fishery management people. We're working on managing our fisheries better. We're working on restoring habitat.
The Department of Fish and Wildlife is cooperatively working with the Squaxin Island tribe in this project to raise coho in deep South Puget Sound. They come from the Skookumchuck hatchery out above Tenino, where some of those eggs have already been transferred and then are raised there.
We get the eggs from Wallace River Hatchery up north. So each one of these trays holds about 8,000 eggs, around 1.8 million green eggs that we receive. And then once they're ready for food, they come outside to we put them in the raceways and then we feed them. And once they're big enough to be marked, we mass mark them by removing the adipose fin with the auto trailer we have here today. And then they go to our big pond where we feed them until December, get them big enough to go out to the net pens, and then they're hauled out in late December.
So all these fish are transported via truck, and then transported from the truck, they're run through irrigation pipe and hoses and into a barge with 2 tanks on them that hold about 2,000 gallons of water each. And they're dumped into those tanks, and then the barge runs them out to the net pens, where they're then dropped from those tanks and into those net pens. 32 net pens, fed daily. They get anywhere from about 20 to 45 pounds of feed a day that's hand delivered by scoop and crew to those net pens. And those net pens are holding somewhere between 70,000 to 100,000 fish, or a 40-foot square, about 16 feet deep. 2 complexes that are 16 net complexes, so 16 net pens per complex.
Bill.
That is so
Oh, nice.
cool. Great.
Yep, just got to fillet it.
Thank you so much.
You can't beat it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yep.
Are there bones in there?
There will be some very fine bones in here. This is the full ice though.
$177 fish. We had 12 of them with tags. And this label goes in the bag with all the heads, so we know when we did it and where we did it. Alright, so I've chopped the fish now in half, looking for the tag. Our wand indicates that it's in this piece here, so this other piece can go in this garbage. So now I take little slices off until I find the tag. It's not in this piece. I have the snout label, and I have to peel the tape off of it. The tape is holding on the little microscopic coated wire tag. First step, peel the tape. Second step, stick it to the magnet. My third step is to put it into the microscope. When I put it into the microscope, it shows up on the computer screen, which enables us to read the number that's written on the... So now that I got the coated wire tag on the computer screen and I'm able to read the number, I enter the number onto an Excel spreadsheet it's where we gather all of our data from the CWT study. So the code on this tag is 211449. That number will tell us where this fish came from when we tagged it. because, you know, we tagged this fish when it was just a juvenile.
Two tribal members that caught the fish was Joseph Peters and Will Henderson the other night, and we really appreciate them for doing that for us.
Start pulling. I was telling Will, oh, it's going to be at the end of the net, you know, that where that bunch is, and we're just pulling jellies in, and I look over, I'm trying to shake these jellies out, and we look over, and I go, I think there's a fish there. Will goes, no, and I go, yeah, I think so. No, maybe it's a jelly. You just see that shadow. We pull it up, and we're like, yeah, there's a fish. We're jumping over there, high-fiving, fist pumping, you know, did our little prayer, thank you to the fish gods, and she came in, a beauty. I'd say, what, 8, 12 pounds?
Is that we're very fortunate to be able to put this ceremony on. But it's kind of sad and for me, because I know some of our other tribal communities aren't able to do this. Our salmon runs are continue to be depleted. Our Salish Sea out here is sick. We've tried to do as much as we have been able to do as a tribe and a community that really cares for the environment around us, and we know that it's important. If that's healthy, then we're going to stay healthy.
When this area started to be settled, our people, the Stutchos, were pushed away. They were moved out of this area. And then finally in 1854, the rest of us were rounded up and put on Squaxin Island. That's our namesake as a Squaxin Island tribe, because we were put on this island. But we're still here today. They almost made us extinct, like our salmon. But the Squaxins that you see are as strong and as resilient and self-determined as ever.
Absolutely. That's a very, very important distinction, that the tribes weren't granted anything. Though they were here, these were their homelands, their waters, their lifeways. The treaty of the tribes was them agreeing to share and allow some of that. But it was all based on this idea of in common. And that in common language was critically important to that legal decision.
Treaty of Medicine Creek has a number of clauses in it specific to natural resources. You know, many of the treaties were primarily designed to contain tribes on a reservation, to keep them on certain tracts of land and remove them from others. What was necessary in Washington, because the tribes and the bands that made up those tribes lived all over the landscape and fished and harvested and collected at all these different locations. It's not a grant of rights. There was nothing granted to the tribes from the United States. The tribes had all these rights, and they reserved a portion of those rights going forward. What grows out of that is, of course, the recognition to harvest, but also to protect the resources so there would be fish and shellfish and animals available for harvest.
But as Squaxins, we're not just connected to our traditions, we are connected to the land. We are connected to the trees and the air and the animals. We are connected to these waters, and we are connected to that salmon, for we still hold them with such high regard. For I pray to God that my grandchildren and their grandchildren have fresh salmon to eat someday. They've got fresh water to drink, fresh air to breathe. I pray that they're still singing our songs and drumming and dancing as we've done for 10,000 years. For it's our indigenous ways and saving this estuary and this ecosystem and our salmon are good for every single one of you in this entire community and the health of this entire community and your grandchildren. It's not just for us. It's not even about us. It's about our ancestors and it's about future generations. Say again, as I'm grateful to each and every single one of you. I say, Shabitsi as I have much love for each and every one of you. Hachkwe Achishlapshabut. I pray that you take care of yourselves well. And until we see each other again, Hoyt, Howatubes. Thank you.
My job title is a shellfish biologist for Squaxin Island Shellfish Program. Became involved with Squaxin Island Tribe as a shellfish technician back in 2007, I believe. I've been here almost 16 years. I was going to graduate school at the time. I applied and I got the job. I quickly moved up to a biologist. And have been doing that ever since. So the position is, for shellfish biologist, my position is funded by the tribe. It's not a grant-based position. However, my primary goal of the job is to provide harvesting opportunities for our tribal members. Several of the things that I do primarily is managing the private tideland program, and that involves going out and conducting shellfish population surveys on privately owned and grower-controlled tidelands. Go out and conduct these surveys to enumerate the amount of shellfish that's available for harvest. Part of that, besides just surveying, is working with the private tideland owners, sending out notifications that are legal requirements. So the job has a little bit of seasonality to it. Primarily our field season is, I would say, March through October. So we prefer to conduct our surveys during that time. We do a lot of stuff in the fall and winter time as far as analyzing the data. So accessing private tidelands is actually quite a complicated process. There's legal requirements that the tribe has. In addition to trying to identify tidelands that are productive, so that are worth our time and have a substantial or a good population of shellfish. So, we do some kind of knowledgeable experience analysis on beaches that we've identified or beaches that we know in the past have had good populations. So as far as the legal requirements to enable us to access the tidelands, we're required to send notification through certified mail or publication to landowners. So we do those notices well in advance. We do that so that we can give landowners plenty of time to get a hold of us so that we can make accommodations and, plan certain particular dates so that they could be present and participate. 75 to 100 individual parcels per year. So it's a laborious process in doing that. A lot of planning and particular managing of the data. But once we do get out there, we conduct all of our surveys, as I said, typically through March, April, through October. Once we get the data, we analyze that, in the latter part of the year. We then send the owners the results of those surveys, and then we send another notification that's a legal requirement for harvesting. Access all tidelands, private tidelands, and grower tidelands by boat.
I'm gonna place these little orange flags with sample numbers on them all throughout the beach. My crew will come behind me. They'll dig 1 square foot samples after each one of these flags.
The interesting thing is, in the last couple of years, we actually have had to cancel dates because of heat. But last year I had a handful of dates that, the temperatures were over 100, and I wasn't going to take workers out there and make them work, in that kind of heat. It's actually can become quite dangerous. So once we conduct the survey for the manila clams and we bring them back to the office and the lab, they're weighed and measured. We weigh and measure each clam, and we only include those clams that are above 1.5 inches and higher in our harvestable amount. Those, once they're enumerated, we analyze the data using GIS. So we're able to provide an output of the whole structure of the population. So not just the amount that's available for harvest, but also the subset of different sizes and size classes. So we're able to see, how many smaller are there, how many seed, which can inform us for future years, or how the beach has been recruiting on an annual basis. Also, spatially, we're able to see where the clams exist on the beach as far as the bands of higher and lower densities. That's been very useful in co-management with shellfish growers, where we have to say divide the beach in order to share 50-50 in the harvest. Shellfish was also included in the treaty and in the Rafidi decision, so that upheld the tribe's right to 50% of the naturally occurring shellfish, both on state and privately owned tidelands. That the tribe's goal is to continue to harvest shellfish in perpetuity. We do get some landowners that are not too happy about, the tribe coming out and surveying or harvesting, and we deal with those on an individual basis. We do a lot of public education. So in the notices that we send, we do provide a lot of background information, a lot of links to, frequently asked questions. We really invite people to participate in the process. That seems to alleviate a lot of concerns. I speak to dozens of people every year to provide them with information as far as how it works, and that we've been doing this for decades. Having this relationship with the community is really important, and being able to inform people, about the reasons why it's so important. A lot of folks think that the tribe and tribal harvesting is a business, and they don't realize that it's individual tribal members that are out there harvesting, and that it provides, it's not employment because it's a treaty right, but it provides income directly into the tribal members and families' pocket, and the community for that matter. So being able to inform folks and speak with them kind of on a one-to-one basis and invite them to participate in the process, in addition to making concessions. You know, for example, we have some people that think we're just going to come and dig the whole beach up and dig every single last clam. So a lot of times we'll make certain concessions like, hey, we'll leave this stretch and we won't even harvest over here so that you know you can go to this spot. Little things like that go a long way in working with the public. So I've realized that being able to connect with people, it helps me reach that end goal of providing opportunities for tribal harvesters. So it's a necessary part of the job. But, you know, I've made a lot of good connections and friendships along the way. So.
I work for the Squaxin Island tribe. I am the water resources biologist. And so my responsibilities include collecting data on water to ensure that it is clean, or if it is not, to pursue the cleanup. And then water resources means water quantity, so measuring stream flow, producing data about stream flow and water levels of lakes and streams. So I advocate for the best management of those resources on behalf of the tribe. The tribe sought EPA funding, Clean Water Act funding, and that funding comes with obligations of collecting data and then making that publicly available for months at a time to collect data hourly on temperature. And so this being Skookum Creek, we have sensors like this deployed in different places to collect temperature on an hourly basis as it changes over the seasons. There's just this process of go out and collect samples, put sensors in the field, and then gather that data and then upload it to a public database. And that way anyone can look at it. But after that, I usually settle into some planning of data collection. And so I will be looking at maps and past data. I look at the weather and our current research plans. And I call my colleague Joe, and we get together and plan that. And then usually Joe goes out and collects most of the field data. If I'm lucky, I get to go in the field. Well, I love being in the field. There's the saying, your worst day in the field is better than your best day in the office. I think it's a lot of fun, and it is constantly changing. It starts, early one morning, gathering equipment, or the night before, you kind of load up your gear into the vehicle, your waders, your knee-high boots, your rain gear, extra gloves, extra hats. Then you might have a cooler specifically for water quality samples, bottles with ice packs. We have these kind of bullet-looking, about this size, sensors. They measure temperature, they measure water pressure. A stream flow meter is imagine a fidget spinner. You guys seen fidget spinners? They're like these spinning toys. Well, it's like the ultimate fidget spinner. It just has these spinning cups. If you put it in flowing water, the cups turn. Joe lays out his tape, and then he's going to, on increments, in about 30 increments along this cross-section, he's going to take a depth and a velocity. And so our objective here is to measure the flow of the creek in cubic feet per second. Measures depth in feet and velocity in feet per second. But if we collect samples, then we immediately pack those on ice. We have a time limit as to which we got to get those samples to the lab. And bacteria has the shortest time limit. It's 24 hours. So usually we collect bacterial samples and deliver them to the lab same day. Take that cooler up to Manchester Laboratory in Port Orchard. If you're gonna like this job, then you have to be a little bit interested and excited about data. But I like data analysis, so 20 years worth of streamflow data, so I could see like what my study is in context to the long history of this location. And that adds a lot more perspective and meaning to like what a researcher is doing when they have the long record of their site location for flow or temperature or what have you. I see that as my mission is to ensure that that is possible. Are there enough fish? Is the fish healthy to eat? Is the fish swimming through clean water? So that's my job, is to help ensure that they have access to clean water and healthy fisheries and healthy shellfish to harvest.
One, two, three.
We're out here today as part of a coordinated effort with a group of small shellfish growers in the Puget Sound area. We will be out here cleaning up the beaches today, and collectively we'll all account for how many tons of trash that we will take off the beach. And every year we do this. We collect various different aquaculture and anything that we can reuse or recycle. Our goal here is not to clean up every single beach in the Puget Sound, but we know that our efforts are making a difference here in the Puget Sound. We're seeing less and less trash on our beaches, and people are taking note of what we're doing here in the South Sound.
It looks like we got a pretty decent pile so far.
It looks like, yeah, from the looks of it. Items.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
There it goes.
Is that a sofa? Yeah.
Oh, nice. Sweet, I needed a chair.
What's that with you, Chris?
Yeah, so my job title is Natural Resources Policy Representative for the Squaxin Island Tribe Natural Resources Department. My duties include managing the salmon fisheries for the Squaxin Island Tribe and the hunting resources, the hunting management. I also am a Pacific Salmon Commission Southern Panel member under the U.S.-Canada Treaty of the Pacific Salmon Treaty, and I represent all the 20 Puget Sound and coastal tribes as a representative speaking on behalf of them on salmon resources and between management of resources between the United States and Canada. Start off with the Pacific Salmon Treaty. Pacific Salmon Treaty is a treaty that was established in 1985 between the United States of America and Canada. The idea of that is to work together to manage the fishery resources that come through the shared borders of the United States and Canada. So this one here is specifically for Pacific Ocean fisheries, and because Canada and the United States share these areas, these fish swim through these bordered areas. And so we work together to try to protect each other's stocks, and the best interest of those stocks are back to their natal streams. And so we work together to manage those resources. So a little bit's taken by them, and a little bit's taken by the United States, and we try to make sure the main source of those fish return to home, to the country of origin. So Northwest Indian Fish Commission is a consortium of 20 tribes. As a group, a topic doesn't move forward unless all 20 tribes agree on this. So that's what the importance of Northwest Indian Fish Commission is they're not the spokesperson for the tribes. They advance ideologies and policies for the Northwest, or for these group of 20 tribes. So one tribe says, no, we don't want to move forward, the commission steps back. My job is always education first. We're teaching people what we do as Squaxin people.
And then it's the management and the other parts that come after that. So it's a full-time job, just educating folks what you, as a Squaxin Island tribal member, who we are. You're always teaching people, and that's important. I take that burden with pride, I would say, because it is kind of a burden to have to continue to educate. But we need to do that, or folks are never going to learn about us or continue that knowledge of our culture. The concept or the idea of 7 generations to me is everything I do from this point forward, or what I had done past, affects the 7 generations ahead of me. So every decision I make affects my future tribal members and the future of this tribe. And so I've taken that, and I've been taught that my whole life, that everything you do is going to affect our future. And so when you look back, and everything my ancestors did affected what I have. I started in 1999 as a fisheries technician and working with smolt traps and adult stream surveys. And I came in and I did my work. I came and collected data and walked the streams. And then I slowly moved into a management position and did Daniel's job for a little bit and moved around. But yeah, I've been around for 4 years now. But in reality, I've been here my whole life. I remember you, Joe, you'd always follow your dad to these fish meetings. And I was probably 4 or 5 years old. And I'd be either under the table or up at the table. My dad would be talking about something. These are the fish numbers, either these. And I'd be going, pounding on the table. So my dad inspired me to go into fisheries. I was there with him all the time. So to hear those stories of me being at fish committee meetings, mimicking my dad and doing all this kind of stuff, yeah, we need to do this and that, makes me feel good that, hey, I had this in my mind, and my dream is since I was a little guy, and I'm here. I mean, that's what's important. This is important to me, and that's why I work for my tribe. I have a sense of pride of working for my people, and I didn't want to work anywhere else. I actually had to tell my wife, we're living here. I can't leave my community, and I love it too much. I'm going to be here and protect salmon for the rest of my life. She's like, okay. It's a commitment, it is. And I want that to be, I want to live that the rest of my life, is be here. And I'm really proud to be here as a Squaxin tribal member working for my tribe in natural resources. That's pretty cool to say that I can work for my people and protect fish. So, yeah.
Joe Peters, Squaxin Island Tribe, he is the commissioner. Once a month, he spends 2 days. In fact, he's part of the executive board. He's currently he was recently elected he's the treasurer of the Northwest Indian Fisheries Commission right now.
Erica Marbett, Squaxin Island Tribe. Y'all, I haven't met you, but most of you know me pretty well. Yeah, water quality scientist.
Brent Armstrong, Superintendent for Sewer and Storm for the City.
The location that we're at right now is our Bayshore Preserve. It's in Mason County. It's maybe 10 minutes outside of Shelton, and we're standing on a bridge that's over Johns Creek. Johns Creek flows into Oakland Bay. It's a 78-acre property that we conserved in 2014, and before we purchased it, it was a 9-hole golf course. Now, of course, the history of this property dates back much farther back than just the golf course. Before white settlers came here, this was kind of the heart of the Squaxin Island tribe's territory, and they had a large longhouse out here. It was a place that had a lot of significance for them culturally. We saw this as an opportunity to try to preserve this property, and we were able to return the water rights to the Department of Ecology's Trust Water Program. The significance of that is that water can never be withdrawn from Johns Creek and put to quote-unquote beneficial use. It stays in stream for the purpose of the fish, for benefiting the fish. The sort of added benefit of this land acquisition was being able to put that water into the water trust.
because groundwater is connected to surface water, and water is finite. Fresh water is a finite resource. And the regional partners planned for reclaimed water use, and because they did that, they were able to decrease their groundwater extraction. And for those reasons, there's less groundwater pumped, and therefore more groundwater available to Goldsboro and Johns Creek.
So this very slick service allows them to enter the skid pan at various speeds, perform different type of practical exercises, train them how to control their vehicle should it skid or run off the road in a slippery environment. Our goal at the end of the day is to build confidence in the officers and their driving experience. And so we want to ensure they have all the skills that are necessary to be, one, competent drivers and avoid injury to themselves or other people. So that's the whole purpose of our program.
The City of Shelton partnered with Washington State Patrol and Washington Correction Center in the initial phases for the satellite treatment plant, which produces the reclaimed water.
The last thing I'd like to add is this was a great partnership that provided some solutions to a lot of problems.
I am the executive director of Puget Sound Restoration Fund and also one of the co-founders. I am working with all the staff, working with our board, working with all of our partners to co-create projects that help restore iconic resources, species, habitats in Puget Sound that are ecologically important and culturally important. And bull kelp is another project that we've worked closely with the Squaxin Island tribe on. And the reason this work is really important is because these resources, these habitats, these species that we're trying to restore are vitally important to humans. In 2021, we organized a kelp expedition that involved a lot of tribal partners, agency partners, research partners, and Squaxin Island tribe was very much a part of organizing that expedition. They were on the advisory team. I'm really very happy to say that in 2023, Joseph Peters, a Squaxin Island tribal member, has joined our board of directors, and he's got incredible knowledge about fish. He's a fish guy, and we need to do a better job of connecting those dots between the projects we're working on and how they connect to and benefit multiple fish species. So he's really going to help us bridge that and bring all that knowledge to bear on our projects.